it's a character that was actually in the vintage line for once. That's right, friends, it is of course Mysterio we are looking at today, and I'm so happy to finally get him because I do get to complete the Sinister Six finally, but I'm a little less happy because this guy does have a few issues. But first of all, he is not quite based on the 90s Spider-Man cartoon or its respective toy line. He is actually more based on the comics because he did not have this gauntlet or boot design in the cartoon, and of course he didn't have this giant crosshatch pattern that's sculpted into his body, but those are both things that the comic book Mysterio has that they just kind of, well, they got rid of the crosshatches for the cartoon because they couldn't animate that moving around. I don't know why they changed the gauntlets so much and gave him like underwear in the cartoon that he wears on the outside like a lot of superheroes do, which is, you know, weird thing. But this is pretty much his costume in the comics. And I love that they did it here because this is a much cooler looking action figure with all the little lines in the torso and the legs, in my opinion. But there are a few issues with it. First of all, before I even got him out of the package, I noticed that cape hangs really high, and it's not like it's just a separate piece in the package. Like, I've pushed it and it will not stay further in. It plugs in the back there, and the fishbowl like just won't go further down on his head, maybe because like I don't know if his head's poking it up at the top or if it's just the way the rubber piece is sculpted, but that's not great looking. I mean, I wish it would like maybe plug into the front chest there and like it could sit more flush, because that gap is not good. Second problem is these weird little scuff marks on the back of my cape here, which I guess is from him being pushed to the back of the package inside the bubble, so that's not good. And, you know, a thing that kind of irks me with the cape is there's a sculpted pattern of circles in there, and I don't know if this is something he has in the comics, but I'm not sure how I feel about it, because it doesn't really make the cape look like it's like a real world material. Like, it just gives it texture, and it's no texture on the other side, so I don't know what the texture is doing there exactly. I mean, it looks fine. It's not like a negative thing, like the giant gap there, or the little scuff marks on the back of the cape. But I mean, I think we've seen this cape before. It seems like a cape that they've used on Thor figures, maybe. Although it can't be, because they have the new little sculpted pieces up here with the little eyeballs in them, and the part of the cape that latches onto them, well, should latch onto them in the figure, but in the comic books, I guess these are what keep it latched to his costume. Anyways, they got the little eyes sculpted in gold there. They got the little patterns in his gauntlets. I love the crosshatch pattern. The sculpt is really great, except for the issue of it, you know, not sticking down there. And then if we move the fishbowl off his head, we get unmasked Quentin Beck inside. I don't know why it's like a translucent-y looking head, but I must admit it's kind of cool looking. I mean, I guess it's part of the illusion, like this illusionary head or something. And if we start talking about paint, this guy has a wash, brings out all those little lines. That's what's impressive about this figure, is the paint. I mean, the sculpt is good, but it has a big issue there. But like the paint, look at the pearlescent thing they used on the fishbowl head. Like, I don't know if it's just, I don't think it's molded like that, because look at the material on the inside. It does not have the same shininess as it does on the outside. And then I like the tone of gold they use. They could have gone with like yellow or something, but they went with gold. Well, this plugs in right here in the back, see? So, I mean, it's supposed to get secured in the back, but then that kind of leaves it dangly in the front. Maybe if you just like cut that off, and then you can push it further on down, like, I don't know. It's just too wide. Anyways, moving back onto the paint. He's got a wash, got good tones of gold. The head's translucent. I don't really see much slop. It's a good looking figure overall. I mean, maybe the cape could have used some washing. I mean, the issue could have been addressed somehow in the packaging, because like your packaging clearly did not accommodate the figure correctly if it's causing paint rub issues inside. But for the most part, the paint's very, very good, except for the back issue on the cape there. And for the most part, the sculpt's really, really good, except for the cape not sitting flush. But let's set that cape aside for a moment to talk about the articulation. So, he has a ball joint head that's on a hinge. It can look that far up. But of course, like when the cape is on, he doesn't really utilize that, I guess, because like, I mean, which direction is he looking with the fishbowl? It doesn't really matter, right? There's no swivel on the fishbowl or anything, but this head swivels all the way around. And he's got hinge and swivel shoulders, of course. They go all the way around and up to pretty much over 90. There are cuts at the biceps right there and double elbows. No swivel at the gauntlet, surprisingly, but has hinge and swivel wrists. Standard ab crunch goes so far forward, so far back. Swivel at the waist works fine. Hips are on ball joints. They can go so far out and so far forward, which is pretty good, I think. Not really back, unless you want to, like, you know, move them to the side a little bit. Cuts at the thighs, double knees, swivels at the boots, and hinge and pivot ankles. So pretty darn good articulation. Maybe they could have added something to the fishbowl, but that's about it. Mysterio's packaging's pretty much the same we've seen with the other retro wave figures. Got the classic Spider-Man logo up there from the animated series, old school Marvel Comics logo, and that's actually original art of Mysterio because he didn't look like that in the cartoon. And then we got other figures on the back, and instead of the alternate head little graphic that we got with like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, we got a little graphic letting us know you can take the fishbowl off. Anyways, let's open this guy up already. And we get a good look at the artwork on the back of the card there, same as all the other figures, of course. And Mysterio himself kind of just pops out of the bubble, but you gotta account for like his giant cape going through this giant hole in the back there, so you kind of squish that through with him. Or you could just remove the thingy, because of course the thingy comes off. For accessories, Mysterio actually gets some pretty cool ones. The packaging calls them hypnotic mist effects, and they're translucent green, just like the head, and they also have the little sparkly bits in there. It's like you can see them on that one pretty good. And the way they're sculpted, like this one looks mostly like it's bubbles, but then you look here and there's like a little snake tail, I guess. But this one, like you can totally make out like octopus tentacle curled up in there. So I guess it's like your worst fears coming to life. Now, I figure these kind of go on the hands. And this one you can kind of get on his hand, like there's this little gap here, and you can kind of like wrap it around, and it's like he's shooting you with his hypnotic mysticism, whatever it is. I mean, I thought Mysterio was like a special effects man who didn't really have hypnotic powers, but I mean, this is pretty cool looking, I think. However, that is not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is wrap them around the feet. Now, the one with the snake tail at the bottom goes on his right foot, something like that. And then the tentacle one, the octopus tentacle, goes on his left foot. And this is what he's supposed to look like, which I think is pretty cool looking, but I think it would have been cool if like stuff shot out of his hands too, because I remember him doing that in the Spider-Man cartoon a lot when he would hypnotize Peter Parker, kind of. So that's kind of cool. For accessories, Mysterio gets some pretty cool ones, actually. The packaging calls these hypnotic mist effects, and they're sculpted in translucent blue-green. They have little sparkles in them, just like his head did. And if you look closely, this one looks like it's just like sculpted out of bubbles mostly, but right there, it's like a snake tail coming out. And the other one, you can totally make out a big old octopus tentacle getting all curled up right there. It's little like suction cups sculpted and everything. So it's kind of like your worst fears coming to life. Now, what I initially thought was like, you can wrap this around his hand, and it's like he's shooting the hypnotic mist at you or something. And you can kind of do it with this one, the one with the snake tail at the bottom, and it kind of works pretty good. But actually, what you're meant to do is take the snake tail one and put it on his right leg, just like that. And the octopus tentacle one clips on the left leg like this. And then you just stand Mysterio up, and it's like he's standing in the hypnotic powers, I guess. I mean, I don't know why it'd be on his feet instead of his hands, but I don't know what to say. It looks pretty cool. So I really appreciate these accessories. It's just two of them, but like they're way better than most accessories we get, I think. I like them so much, I'll just leave them attached for scale time. Mysterio stands about 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters tall. And of course he fits in perfectly with Pizza Spidey and DCUC Batman. But of course what we all really want to see is how well he goes with the Sinister Six. And now that the team is complete, I gotta say he's looking pretty good, and I'm feeling pretty good to have all of them together. So friends, while I ultimately do have an issue with that cape not being flush and sticking up so high, and the little quality control bit on the back of the cape there, I'm ultimately going to recommend him because the flaws I found are pretty minor, and he comes with a pretty wicked cool accessory. And if you don't already have this figure, how else are you going to complete the Sinister Six, right? So until next time, peace out, YouTube.